I'm Candace Burns, and I'm the Director of Inclusion and Workforce Development, and I am celebrating my 15th year at Dana-Farber. I grew up in Dorchester, born and raised. My dad is from the South. My mom is from Cambridge. They actually met in church. And, they are individuals that really built a solid foundation to raise their three girls. And I think I take a lot of my dad and his sort of kind of laid back way of life, a silent, strong individual. And then I look at my mom, who started out as a nurse, and then went back to school and became an educator. And along the way, she recognized the value of community and being able to give back to community. And so clearly, based on what I am doing today, there was some strong influence there. She started the first after-school program in the South End of Boston, right? With Jonathan Kozal. I don't know if those of you who know Jonathan. He is an amazing advocate in the space of public education, equity, and equality in education for all. And so his influence on my mom, and then my mom's influence on me, has really led me to do the work that I do here at Dana-Farber. Both of them are cancer survivors. They are 86 and 92. My dad, a prostate cancer survivor. My mom, her story is pretty impactful because it was 3 months after I started working at Dana-Farber in 2007 that she received her first cancer diagnosis, that being breast cancer. And it just came as a shock. One, I'm new to Dana-Farber. I'm still getting to know my place here and the work that I do, and then having her have this diagnosis, there was just no question in our minds where she was going to go for care. And it was a breast cancer diagnosis, as I said, and a year after that, we were thinking, her chemotherapy treatments were about to come to an end, and boom, she was hit again with a bladder cancer diagnosis after seeing some irregularities in her kidney function. So, it really has, being a part of Dana-Farber is not just about the work that I do here day to day. It's about also the care that they've been able to provide my mom. So this space of workforce development that I'm in is really about increasing access, opportunity, and really helping individuals to advance in their respective careers. Coming here to Dana-Farber, I do that in the space of healthcare. Why that's really important to me is because, especially when my mom and dad were going through their cancer diagnoses, I'd take them to their appointments, and you'd look around and one might think, wow, maybe people of color don't get cancer. Well, we do. We do. And especially at Dana-Farber, I wasn't seeing a whole lot of people that look like us. Now, that's changed over the years. It's been now 15 years. And as it relates to individuals in the waiting areas, as well as our caregiving team and others that are providing service in the name of Dana-Farber, we are definitely seeing more people of color. But there's opportunity there. And so I'm really blessed to be in the role that I do because it's not just my day-to-day work, but it is who I am. It's introducing individuals that might not necessarily think of Dana-Farber as a place where they could potentially work. They might not necessarily know what a Dana-Farber is. But through our programs in workforce development, this is about providing that exposure, providing those internship experiences, providing those access to potential externships as adults that could lead them into full-time jobs. And it's about letting our employees that are in some of those frontline entry-level roles, giving them those tools and resources to be able to excel and to move up and advance and stay at Dana-Farber because they have that opportunity to do so. So, I call myself, I guess, an academic medicine I grew up in academic medicine, let's just say that. So having worked at several of the Harvard affiliate institutes, it is that experience that really prepared me for this role at Dana-Farber. And yes, Dana-Farber did not have an Office of Workforce Development. Some of the other Longwood medical area institutions already had it. But I saw this as an opportunity to really start something and grow. You know, honestly, there was some work being done, but it was, when I came, I really tried to take a more strategic approach to this work. You know, it's about growing our own, you know, and that's what, if we're going to be competitive, remain competitive, we've got to ensure that we have a workforce that reflects the community that we serve. So, you know, this is not only in the space of student training, which we had a little bit of a foundation there, and we were able to continue to grow it and develop it and build it, but it's also, you know, looking at those adults, those unemployed and underemployed adults right in our local community. You know, yes, there are times when we're going to have to go out of state and do searches nationally, but we were missing out on our local talent. Right here, you know, you throw a stone in one direction, and yes, you're in one of the more affluent areas of Boston and in that Brookline area, but you throw it in another, and you're in one of the more marginalized communities. And unless there are organizations like Dana-Farber, which, you know, I'm so proud to be a part, because we are doing this, that are opening the doors and saying, you know what, we're going to meet you where you're at, and we're going to welcome you into this environment, and then we're going to invest in you and grow you and develop you. And now, proud to say that we have over 60 individuals that started as high school students that are now part of our Dana-Farber full-time staff. We have individuals that started in entry-level roles at Dana-Farber, and through investing in them and giving them the resources and tools, they're now serving in more leadership level positions at Dana-Farber. And that's what our work is all about. I think the more people that we are able to bring in that, you know, are diverse and reflect what our community looks like, the more that we have sort of agents of change out there in the community spreading the good word about Dana-Farber and the opportunities that exist, whether it's employment opportunities or whether it's opportunities to receive one's care here. You know, it's amazing because some of the young people that we work with even will say, you know, I was a patient in the Jimmy Fund, and I never really knew what this, you know, what Dana-Farber was all about, and now to be a part of the workforce, you know, and they could be a high school student, they still say, and as we tell them, you are part of our workforce now, and you know, and then we have our model in workforce development that once you're part of workforce development, you're always part of workforce development. We were not going to let you go. We don't care where you go, but in any case, yeah. So yes, I definitely feel that we're growing, sort of in sort of, again, agents of change out there to spread the good word about Dana-Farber. So when you talk about social determinants of health, one of the social determinants of health is sort of economic opportunity and education. And so that's what our work in workforce development is all about. Know that we didn't skip a beat, you know, we still needed, were still wanting to be employed. Students still wanted access to internships and other experiential learning to help them get ready to be part of our workforce in the future. And so we were still able to maintain our programs just in a little different way. You know, we went virtual for a while there. We had to, you know, not place students directly in departments because our leaders, our managers had to get it together and figure out what this virtual world would look like. But once they did, they were ready to open the doors again to interns and staff. You know, yes, once they sort of settled into this new normal, they too were ready to continue to invest in themselves and advance. I feel like we are busier than ever. Maybe it's because the pandemic gave people the opportunity to just pause and say, gosh, what do I want to do with my life? And so now more than ever, I feel like both from the youth perspective and the adult perspective, we are getting people wanting to develop. So as I was saying, when COVID hit, we did not skip a beat. We know that our interns wanted to continue. They wanted to continue to develop themselves, our student interns. And the adults also, wanted to continue to invest in themselves. So, we took a turn. We went virtual with some of our programming, with most of our programming, until things settled out and department managers were ready to welcome back our student trainees into their departments, and our adults, I think took that pause and figured out, what do I want to do with myself? Because the world is so different, and finally people were taking a pause to really think about how they might invest and advance in their own careers. There's been so many folks that have influenced my life, but talk about categories and first the education that I received, both as a high school student attending a local school, private school, had the benefit of doing that. My mom knew how to wheel and deal and did her thing in getting me into Brimmer and May, and then I'm still an active member of Babson College. And I mention these education facilities because they are predominantly white institutions. And being a person of color and learning how to navigate in that space, gave me a foundation to navigate in this space, and to be successful. And some may or may not know that there's a difference, and there's a level of comfort and a level of confidence that comes with the ability to do that. And that's what a lot of my work is also about, is helping to instill that confidence in individuals and say, you know what, you do belong. You might not see a lot of people that look like you, but you, in fact, belong. And so that's, so I see my education as one group of influencers. And then, as I think about my career, there definitely, I got to give kudos to my work family. I have an amazing team that I work with, my immediate workforce development colleagues, as well as my inclusion, diversity, and equity and HR colleagues. I feel like I learn something from them every single day. And when that stops, then it's probably time for me to, look for that next opportunity. And then finally, I'm just going to categorize, and a lot of people can't say this, but I've had awesome managers throughout my entire career. I cannot think of someone that I've worked for where I said, I will never want to work for them again. I feel like I'm blessed in being able to be able to say that. I can say that each and every one of my managers I have learned something from. I've grown as a result of them being a part of their team. And then finally, I will say that I am mentored and served by those that I have the opportunity to serve. So whether it's a student or some of the, staff that I've worked here at Dana-Farber and helped with their development and helping them develop, they have helped me to develop. When we first got started, we had somewhat of a foundation of working in the student training space, right? And so, the idea there was we didn't just want to be a youth employment agency. We wanted to address the entire student and really enhance their experience. So it was, yes, in partnership with Boston Public Schools. Our partnerships are with 3 schools that are local in our community, less than a mile from Dana-Farber. So it just made sense that we would serve students from these organizations. And then and so we had a lot going on in the student space. It was the adult space that also needed to be developed. Now, recognizing we were a department of 2. So, I had someone that could pay attention in the student training space, and then it was my focus to really manage the adults. And in order to work in this adult space, I needed to find community-based organizations that did the pre-work, that laid the foundation. So the YMCA has an education and training arm to it, so we work very closely with them. What was formerly known as the unemployment agencies, but are now called career centers, we work closely with them. And it's through, and then there was another organization actually called JVS who provides training in the space of whether it's pharmacy tech training or office support training. Working with those agencies, it has allowed us to then ensure that we have adults that are coming into our workplace that have the basic skills, and then our department wants them to sort of build on those skills, and we give them experiences, whether it's again externships and other ways that they can put what they've applied in the training program into action at Dana-Farber, with the goal of ultimately hiring them into full-time positions. Our work would not be possible if we did not have a team of individuals that really focus in on this workforce development space. We're a team of 2. We have doubled in size, so we're now a team of 4 and able to do it a little bit, even go deeper with that work. So it's based on having that team. It's based on building trust. Right? We cannot work with individuals if they don't trust us. And so and then the final aspect is around relationship building, And so we are hands-on a lot with our programming. We do a lot of what people may say hand-holding, but you know what? It's what people need in order to get started. You give them that hand, you give them that extra support, and then in the long term, they're going to do better. They're going to fly. They're going to excel. And so that's what a lot of our work is based on, is really that trust, having that team, and strong relationships. We could not do what we do without the support of the many, many different departments that we partner with. And so, we take that. We do not take that for granted, I should say. We value and know that, again, we're a high touch, we're a high touch office. So we meet with every single person in a department that's going to work or touch in some way our programming, because we want to make sure we're aligned. We want to make sure that the values, what the goals of our program are and what their goals are all in alignment. And so, there's over 60 different departments that we work with in the summer. I'd probably say in the course of a year, there's probably 80 to 100 different departments that we're working with that are either hosting students, or someone's coming to speak to, our interns, or someone's facilitating a workshop for the adults. There's always contact with those departments and the individuals in those departments, and we couldn't do the work without them. We have students, high school students and college students that are in our research labs, that are that are supporting the finance department, that are up on the patient floors, helping staff up on our caregiving team on the patient floors. Security has hosted students as well. And then in the more specialized areas and with some of our adult programs, we have pharmacy techs that are being trained through JVS and then come and are placed in internships in the pharmacy department, and many have ultimately been hired. We just launched an inaugural clinic assistant program where we work with Massasoit Community College with their medical assistants, and who are being trained to become medical assistants, and now placing them to be clinic assistants up on the floors. So those are called pipeline programs, and we are evolving and hopefully growing more pipeline programs to serve our Dana-Farber community. I remember part of my graduate school, maybe it was a graduate school assignment, where they talked about building your personal mission statement. And mine, so many years ago, was about how do I increase access and opportunities for others. It was pretty general, that's what I wanted my mission statement to be. And so to be in this role, it's, I get paid to do what I love. And what what better opportunity can one have is really to get paid to do what they love. And what I love is, yes, and what I love is being able to give back, to, again, provide those who are underrepresented, those who are from historically marginalized communities, to give them those opportunities that they are so deserving. And knowing that, there is talent, there is hidden talent out there. And so we're out there on the front lines just trying to uncover and bring that talent to Dana-Farber. So I see for Dana-Farber in the next 20, 25, 30 years, I really see them continuing to live its core values and its mission. And I think most of all, what's important is that we continue to lead with a lens of equity, with a lens of inclusion, and with a lens of, of caring, because that's what we're all about. That's what we should be all about.